Welcome back to the Buckeye Battle Cry Show. I'm your host, Brandon Held. I'm a longtime diehard sports fan, especially the Ohio State Buckeyes. Today's topics, we're going to talk about Week 8 highlights, of course, going over the Buckeyes versus the Wisconsin Badgers. I'll do my game reviews from the weekend and my selections and how that went. I'll give you my top 10. You'll get this week's legends in Scarlet and Gray. You'll get a preview of Week 9's top 5 games and picks. And then you'll get my Instagram topics of the week. So let's start right off with Week 8 highlights, Ohio State at Wisconsin. Now, we knew this wasn't going to be a tough game going into the game. Wisconsin's having a really tough year with Luke Fickell, our former Buckeye alum, at the helm. And frankly, I'm not sure how long Fickell is going to last at Wisconsin. I don't know if they're going to stick with him to allow him more time to build and rebuild, or if they're just going to give up on him. So let's see what happens there. But the game itself, the Buckeyes scored 34 points 2 weeks in a row, but this time in a very different way. Julian Sayin was passing all over the Badgers for career highs of 36 completions in 42 attempts. That was an 85% completion rate to stick with his college football leading completion percentage rate. 393 yards, also a career high for him, and then he tied his career high with 4 touchdown passes. The Buckeyes had 491 total yards of offense and 98 yards rushing to Wisconsin's 144 total yards and 49 yards rushing. Now, there's not a lot to complain about when overall the coaching staff let the ball fly and they aired it out. That was the right choice against a poor Wisconsin secondary. Also, this is the same game plan they should use on Scum in the final week because their secondary is their weakness as well. The offensive line did not play great. They whiffed on key blocks on third down multiple times. And this is not a knock on them because I believe they are a strength of the team, the offensive line, but they did not have a great game. And in particular, the guards. Let's hope they learn from that and they get better. And I'm sure they would say the same thing. Bo Jackson, who I've been a big fan of, only averaged 2.6 yards per carry on his 10 attempts, which was a little surprising. And then West came in and he got some first team carries this week, and he averaged 6.1 yards per carry. He did only get 9 carries for 55 yards, but in those 9 carries, he made the most of them. Donaldson only had 2 carries, and Peoples didn't get an attempt at all. I'm not sure. I don't think he was injured. I saw him in there blocking at one point, but he just didn't get a chance to run the ball. So I'm not sure if there's more to that or not. Of course, Jeremiah Smith had 9 catches for 97 yards, no touchdowns, unfortunately, this week. And Tate, a benefactor of coverage and attention Jeremiah Smith gets, he had 6 catches for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both touchdowns were tightly contested and beautiful throws by Sayin, and even more amazing catches by Tate, especially the first catch for the first touchdown in double coverage. The way he leaped up over both defenders and caught that ball in the end zone was absolutely beautiful. Sayin couldn't have thrown that ball any better. While Jeremiah Smith is getting double and triple coverage, Sayin did target him 13 times. So 4 of his 6 incompletions were trying to get the ball to Smith in tight coverage, and it just didn't work out. Defensively, I mean, what can you complain about in a shutout? Well, at times, again, there seems to be not very much pressure on the quarterback. And luckily, Wisconsin isn't very good. Their quarterback isn't very good. The receiving core isn't very good. But when I watch this and I see the quarterback sit back there, with what feels like he can count to 4 or 5 before he has to get rid of the ball. That concerns me, not particularly about Wisconsin, but just later on down the road when they have to play better teams. They have to go into the playoffs and play better teams in the playoffs as well, better quarterbacks. I just want to see more pressure on the quarterback. The defense did have 3 sacks, but again, Wisconsin has a horrible offense. So granted, they have a lot of injuries and not a lot of talent, but Iowa was able to force 3 turnovers with their quarterback pressure, and Ohio State only was able to get 1 interception, and that bounced off the receiver's shoulder pads. So it wasn't really a forced turnover as much as a gift. And I know it sounds like I'm being critical of the best defense in college football, and I'm not saying I can do a better job. That's not what I'm saying at all. Just on the outside looking in, more pressure on the quarterback would make our already great defense be maybe the greatest defense in the past 50 years or so. I'm sure the defense feels the same way. They probably would like to get more quarterback pressures with a 4-man rush, but because, as you know, quarterback pressure, it forces quick throws, it forces bad throws, it stops an offense from getting in rhythm, it stops the quarterback from getting in rhythm, and he's just, sketchy and not comfortable the whole game, and that would just add to the already great stuff that the Ohio State defense is doing. If the defense played like that, the offense could score 10 points a game and win the national championship. Now, I am being a little facetious because you're going to run into teams that figure out your defense because of great coaching, and they're going to score a little more than 10 points in a game. It just seems like no matter how great the defense is playing, there's always 1 or 2 games a year that Ohio State gives up 24, 31 points in the season. So you don't want that to be in the playoffs when it's elimination time, that's for sure. So unfortunately for us fans, we have to wait another week because the Buckeyes have a bye week this week. I'm sure the coaches and players appreciate it for the rest and opportunity to prepare for Penn State and everyone else that's coming up towards the latter half of the season. But it was a great game overall by the Buckeyes, both offensively and defensively. I would give it an A score, some offensive line play and some quarterback pressure on defense would push it to the A+ category. But overall, very good. And of course, I picked Ohio State to win that game. I will always pick Ohio State to win every game this season. Doesn't mean they'll win every game, but I will pick them to win every game because I think they should win every game. So next game, Washington at Scum. I got this wrong. I think a couple reasons. One, just my dislike of Scum. I watched them get absolutely destroyed by USC. I feel like Washington is a close to caliber USC level of team, but I didn't think about the start time of this game. And Washington was starting at 9 a.m. their time, and they were sleeping the whole game. They never woke up. Their offense made Scum's defense look good, which they are not. Their defense made Scum's offense look good, which they are not. And so it was like a scrimmage game for Scum because Washington never woke up. They get a gift. They get to win a game that I don't believe they are a better team than. And I'm not going to get into statistics of this game because this game was an anomaly to me. This was like the Indiana versus Illinois game all over again. Obviously not as bad, but it just didn't look like the Washington team that I've been watching play for the first half of the season. They just didn't show up. They weren't awake. So that's it. So next game, number 5, Ole Miss at number 9, Georgia. At least they were at the time. I picked Georgia to win at home, and Georgia did win at home. So what do Ole Miss and Georgia have in common? They have no D in their name or on their team. This was an offensive shootout for 3 quarters. Ole Miss scored 5 touchdowns on their first 5 possessions, and that had never happened under a Kirby Smart team at Georgia. Ole Miss finishes with 351 yards of total offense, mostly passing through the air. Luckily for Georgia, the Ole Miss defense is worse than theirs. So Georgia had a pretty balanced attack of 510 total yards. 289 were passing and 221 were rushing. Ole Miss didn't score in the fourth quarter, so Georgia outscored them 17-0 in the fourth quarter, and they were able to crawl out of their home stadium with a win. Now, both of these teams are most likely making the playoffs unless they have a meltdown. Less Ole Miss possibility, but more I think Georgia will most likely make the playoffs. But Ole Miss is still in contention. But any good passing team will shred Georgia's secondary. Ole Miss just can't stop anything. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. They couldn't stop anything. So that left me 2-1 on my picks at that point. Next game, Tennessee at Alabama. I picked Alabama. Alabama won 37-20. Yeah, this game pretty much went as I expected. Alabama's getting a little better each week, both offensively and defensively. And of course, if you watch this game on the good old homers of ESPN, they were trying to claim Alabama is the hottest team in college football. But I'm sorry, who has the longest winning streak in major college football right now? Oh, that's right, the national champions. They just went on the most amazing run in college football history to win the title and then replaced 14 NFL draft picks along with a few other guys that graduated as well that didn't get drafted by the NFL. And now they're just only the undefeated number one team in the country since week 2. But ESPN wants to call Alabama the hottest team in football. Okay, ESPN, keep drinking the Kool-Aid, keep trying to sell your crap to these SEC homers, and ESPN is just a pathetic network. They're a pathetic network, and I can't stand them, and I don't know about you guys. I don't watch College Game Day anymore. I used to back in the day, but I just watch Big Noon Saturday on Fox because I can't stand the crap that ESPN tries to sell. It's so biased that it makes me sick. It just makes me angry when I watch it. So I just don't watch ESPN anymore. I could spend my time discussing this game and the statistics, but it's an overhyped, overrated conference. They don't have one great team. You know, every team is either good on offense or good on defense. And there's not a team in the SEC that you can look at like Ohio State or Indiana and say, wow, they have a really great offense and they have a really great defense. There's not a team in the SEC you can say that about. I think you could even throw Oregon in there. Frankly, the 3 best teams in the country are Big Ten teams, period. And that got proved this weekend as well. All right, moving on. Next game, number 20, USC at 13, Notre Dame. Now, I picked USC to win this game. I liked their offense to outscore Notre Dame's offense in this game. I really thought they had what it took to get it done, but Notre Dame in the rain was able to win with turnovers and special teams. They only won by 10 points. So when you think about that, Notre Dame received 3 gifts from USC and scored on a kickoff touchdown. So when you throw in 3 turnovers and a special teams touchdown and you only win by 10 points, that shows you everything should have been USC winning this game. USC had 396 yards of total offense and Notre Dame had 442. The difference is how they moved the ball. USC was passing and Maava had 42 attempts, just like saying, and he went for 328 yards. But Notre Dame just ran all over USC for 306 yards. Which, by the way, how important is recruiting? What would Notre Dame be without Jeremiah Love? He absolutely carried them with his vision and speed and athletic ability, and USC couldn't stop him. Yeah, Price is a solid back, and he averaged 6.7 yards per carry for 87 yards, but Love had 9.5 yards per carry for 228 yards. Now, I thought USC could do a better job of stopping the run like they did against against scum last week, but they absolutely just didn't get it done. And as soon as Jeremiah Love had a crease with his speed and athletic ability, he made, smaller runs into bigger, longer runs. He did a great job. USC turned the ball over, special teams touchdown. Can't win like that for sure. So kudos to Notre Dame. And at that point, that makes me 3-2 in my picks for the week. The next game I picked for the week was Utah at BYU. I did pick BYU. BYU won 24-21. They were both ranked teams that met in a rivalry game. They were. I'm sure Utah won't be after this week. I really don't have much to say about this game. They were two of the top 25 teams, but neither of them is good enough to be a serious contender nationally. And even if one of them makes it into the playoffs, depending on who they play in the matchup, I actually expect them to exit rather quickly. So I won't spend too much time on that, but I did pick BYU over Utah. And then finally, of my picks for the week, I did pick Vanderbilt to beat LSU, and that allowed me to go 5-2 on the week in my picks. And Vanderbilt did beat LSU 31-24. Another game I'm not going to spend too much time on. They are both what I thought they were. Vanderbilt has a good offense. LSU has a good defense. LSU doesn't have a good offense. Vanderbilt doesn't have a good defense. I expected Vanderbilt to do enough on both sides of the ball to win this game at home, and that's exactly what happened. Vanderbilt is a top-tier team in the SEC. And as crazy as that sounds, that doesn't mean much in the current SEC. The SEC is so down that Vanderbilt is one of their best teams. Yeah, they are a better team than they have traditionally been, but even with the team that they have now and the talent they have now, they would normally be middle of the pack or bottom tier of the SEC. But because of the rest of the SEC has taken a step backwards, Vandy is a top 5 team in the SEC, maybe even the third best team in the SEC. We don't know yet, but that's the way they're looking right now. And they may make the playoffs. Way too early to predict that. They still have to play Missouri, Texas, Kentucky, Auburn, and Tennessee. They absolutely can beat all of those teams, but will they? So we'll just have to see how the season plays out and see if Vanderbilt makes it into the playoffs. That would be something else for sure. I don't know if anybody would have predicted that going into the season that is not a Vanderbilt fan. Okay, the other games and notes worth discussing. Billy Napier got fired from Florida, ironically after a win. Go figure. That kind of shocked me a little bit, to be honest with you. I knew early on that he was on the hot seat. He was in trouble for the season, but it's odd to see a coach get fired after a win. So he's out. Florida will be looking for a new coach. And on that note, I'm just going to quickly say I keep hearing rumors of Urban Meyer going to Penn State. I hope that's not true. I don't want to see that happen for multiple reasons. One, I love Urban Meyer. Two, I don't want to have to root against him again. And three, I don't want to have to get pissed off at him if he does go to Penn State and they end up beating us in a game with Urban Meyer as coach. I don't want any of those things to happen. So I'm just hoping that doesn't happen. And that's all rumor and speculation. All right. Other games worth noting. Louisville beat Miami 24-21. So someone else brought this up. I wasn't paying attention to it. So Miami had played all Florida teams to this point in the season, and they were undefeated in the state of Florida. They go out on a Friday night and then they lose to Louisville, and Beck throws 4 interceptions, and he was the favorite to win the Heisman going into that game. So let's just see how that drops him. Clearly, Miami's going to go as Beck goes, which typically just about any team goes as well as their quarterback goes. Any quality team. Notre Dame is not scary for that reason, because if you shut down their running game, are you afraid of their quarterback and their receiving core? I don't think anybody is, but you have to shut down that running game first. SMU beats Clemson 35-24. Now here's my question. Why is nobody talking about this? This is an equal to or worse collapse than Penn State had. and yet Sweeney is still chilling at Clemson. I mean, I get it. He has a history of showing he can win big games and he can win national championships. But in this "what have you done for me lately" landscape that we live in, this is a nuclear meltdown this season. I had Clemson undefeated, number 1 seed going into the playoffs and losing to the number 2 seed Penn State in the national championship. So by my account, what is happening at Clemson is a bigger disaster than James Franklin at Penn State. And I am just shocked that nobody is bringing more attention to this. If you look at this graphic right here I've got up, going into this season, the most talented teams by roster, according to 247 Sports, they're taking that off of recruiting and transfers. Georgia's supposed to have the most talented team in the country. Alabama second, Ohio State third. But when you look down, Clemson's number 7, right? They have 4 losses. And if they're that talented, there's one person to blame. And they had a more talented team than Penn State. And they still have 4 losses. This needs to be brought up. This needs to be talked about. They're losing to teams they have no business losing to. And there's only one reason for that, and it's coaching. So again, baffled by this whole Clemson thing and why everyone's just glossing over what's happening at Clemson. And finally, Arizona State beats the mighty looking Texas Tech. If you didn't watch this game, it was a thrilling game. ASU had a 19-7 lead in the fourth quarter. They were sitting pretty. The fans were feeling great about the game, feeling like they were going to roll on into a win. And then Texas Tech storms back, and then they score 2 touchdowns back to back. Boom, boom. Next thing you know, ASU's losing 22-19 with a couple minutes left in the game. And I actually thought, seeing this game live, okay, this is where all that money that they paid for this defense comes in handy. This defense is going to step up. They're going to shut ASU down, and they're going to justify all the transfers and all the money spent on the Texas Tech defense. And no, that's not what happened. Leggett took the ASU offense down the field, and they scored. They scored so quick that Texas Tech had time to drive down the field, get to about the 30-yard line, and get one last throw into the end zone to try to win the game. But ASU knocked the ball down. Texas Tech loses the game, and ASU pulls off the upset. Now, to me, this is a mild upset. ASU's a really good football team and capable of beating most upper-tier teams in a game. Texas Tech was no different. This was at home for ASU, and they were able to walk away with the victory. And so it's a nice win for ASU, and it shows you that Texas Tech is not unbeatable. Their defense can be scored on in difficult situations when they need to step up. So ASU did that. They proved that, and they showed that. The current Big Ten standings, Indiana and Ohio State are tied at the top, both 4-0 in the conference, 7-0 in the country. Iowa, Scum, Minnesota, Northwestern, Oregon, UCLA, and USC are all 3-1 in the Big Ten. I hope you paid attention to what I just said and what I'm showing you if you're looking at the graphic, because that's right. UCLA is 3-1 in the Big Ten. UCLA is actually not out of the conference championship race. And I didn't look at UCLA's schedule. I should have, but I do know Ohio State has to play them. I think they have to play Oregon. I'm not 100% sure on that fact, but either way, doesn't matter. Imagine if UCLA won out with 4 losses, went to the Big Ten championship, and won the Big Ten. I mean, it's not going to happen, but just imagine if that did, a 4-loss UCLA team turning it around like that. They're still in the race. So I just thought that was interesting and funny to look at. Northwestern, 1 Big Ten loss. Minnesota, one Big Ten loss. Illinois is 2-2, but I mean, they lost to the two best teams in the country, Ohio State and Indiana. So if AP or anyone's going to be putting Notre Dame in the top 25 because they have two quote unquote quality losses, nobody has more quality losses than Illinois. So they should be considered a top 25 team if that's what you're doing. I'm just saying. And if we look at the current SEC standings, not that I care about the SEC, but they are the two biggest and most powerful conferences in college football. A&M's 4-0 in the SEC and the only undefeated overall team at 7-0, followed by Bama, that's 4-0. Georgia's 4-1. Ole Miss is 3-1, and they have a few 2-1 teams, including Texas. But if you saw, it took Texas to overtime to beat Kentucky 13-10. I mean, Texas's offense is just awful. Arch Manning, the Heisman favorite going into the season. Have you guys watched this guy play? He can't hit basic passes. It's unbelievable. I don't know if it's pressure. I mean, obviously he was overhyped, but I don't know if he was just way more overhyped because of the name Manning. I'm not sure what's going on, but he does not even look like a high quality quarterback. And it's a little shocking, frankly, with the last name Manning and all the hype he had going into the season. He's just not very good. He has a lot of work to do, and I have no faith in Texas to do well the rest of this season. I don't expect them to be in anything. And last week, Klatt had Texas winning the SEC, I think, and the number 4 team heading into the playoffs getting a first round bye. And that's crazy to me. I can't see that happening. And I didn't do a playoff predictor mid-season because nobody, even though I had an immense amount of views last week, and I'm so appreciative of that, and thank you. I had over 8,000 views, but I didn't get very many likes for that ratio. I didn't get any comments for that ratio, and nobody said they wanted to see me do a mid-season playoff ranking, so I just didn't take the time to do that because it didn't seem like anyone would care if I did it or not. So it's not an easy thing to do. Anyway, I was clearly freaking way off at the beginning of the season, having Clemson play Penn State for the national championship and Penn State winning it all. I'm a little superstitious as a Buckeye fan. In my mind, I think Buckeyes are far and away the best team in the country. And it would be hard for me to put together a playoff bracket and having them be the 1 seed and just running through everybody and winning it all. I know it sounds ridiculous, like I don't have that kind of power, but inside of me, I feel like I would jinx the Buckeyes by doing something like that. If you're not superstitious, you don't get it. If you are superstitious, you completely get it. So checking out this week's AP top 25, just like every week, some just don't belong. This is why I do my own top 10, because I like to use this thing called logic and common sense, which clearly the AP doesn't have a whole lot of. Scum squeaks back into the top 25, beating Washington at home. And my question is, why? Why? You didn't even give Washington what they deserved, which was to be in the top 25. And then Scum goes and beats them, and now Scum's a top 25 team. That makes no sense to me. Yeah, Washington deserved to be in the top 25. And yeah, Scum beat them, but you didn't have them there, so why is Scum there? Doesn't make any sense to me. ASU 24 after the big upset, 2 losses. I don't really mind at the back half. It's a big win. Illinois, to me, is a little underrated at 23 when they lost to the number 1 and 2 teams in the country. Texas, forget about Texas. Like, I know they beat Oklahoma. They do not look like a top 25 team. They just don't. I don't expect them to stay there. They will probably lose very soon. Louisville gets a big jump after beating Miami. Texas Tech drops. But again, why is Notre Dame number 12 and you have a 1-loss Texas Tech at 14, or a 1-loss Oklahoma for that matter at 13, or a 1-loss Missouri at 15? I don't get any of this. You have a 2-loss Tennessee at 17. Why does Tennessee deserve to be 17 if Illinois is 23? Looking at your own poll, You have Alabama 4 and Georgia 5. And then you have Ohio State 1 and Indiana 2. That's who Illinois lost to. They should clearly be ahead of Tennessee. So the AP just whack as always. Here's my top 10, and I will explain as I go through. So number 10, Texas Tech. Still one of the best teams in the country. They lost barely at the end of a game at ASU. That doesn't make them a bad team. It just means they lost a game, one game. So if they lose more, then this is a different conversation. So we'll see what happens, how the season goes. I have Georgia at number 9. Why? Because in my opinion, Georgia should have 2 other losses. They should have lost to Auburn. They should have lost to Tennessee. They're the luckiest team in college football. So for now, since they only have the 1 loss, I'll keep them in the top 10, but I don't expect them to stay there, frankly. I just don't. Number 8, Vanderbilt. If Vanderbilt played Georgia today, I'm picking Vanderbilt to win. I know it sounds crazy, and location would matter. Okay, maybe at Georgia wins, but at Vanderbilt, I'm picking Vanderbilt. At a neutral site, I'm picking Vanderbilt. So I have Vanderbilt at number 8. Number 7, BYU. Why? Are they the 7th best team in the country? I don't know. My eyes tell me no, but they're undefeated. They're in first place in their conference, the Big 12. So they just deserve to be higher ranked than they have been traditionally. Big win over Utah. I'm not sneezing at Utah. Utah's not a bad team, and BYU did beat them, and it's a rivalry game. So I have to give BYU some credit, and I'm pulling them in at number 7 since they're undefeated. The same thing for number 6, Georgia Tech. They're in first place in the ACC, all alone, undefeated, haven't lost, looking pretty good. Will they stay there? Will they stay undefeated? I say most likely not. But for now, they're undefeated, first place in the ACC. So Georgia Tech, number 6. Number 5, Alabama. Again, they have rebounded really well since that loss to Florida State. And this is no surprise to me. Like the rest of you, I was surprised Alabama lost to Florida State the first game of the season. But preseason, while I haven't gotten a lot of things right, I did pick Alabama to win the SEC when Texas was everyone's overwhelming favorite to win the SEC. I thought Alabama had a better team, and Kalen DeBoer is a better coach than Sarkisian, in my opinion. I just believe in DeBoer more, and I believe in the talent Alabama has. So they've had some good, solid wins to pull themselves back up with only 1 loss. So they deserve to be at number 5. Number 4, Oregon. Again, probably, in my opinion, the 3rd best team in the country. I don't know for sure yet. I honestly, genuinely believe Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon are the 3 best teams in the country. But Oregon does have a loss, and I can't put them ahead of my number 3 team, Texas A&M. They're undefeated. They're in the SEC. They've had some close games that they could have lost, but they didn't. They won, and they're still undefeated. They don't have a great defense. They give up points. They give up a lot of points, but they can also score. So again, they're just another one of the SEC teams that I'm talking about that one side of the ball is much better than the other. Texas A&M has to outscore you, and so far they've been outscoring everybody. And then number 2, as I alluded to, Indiana. They smacked Michigan State over the weekend. Not hard to do. But I will say this, they held them to 13 points. Really, they held them to 10 points. Michigan State kicks a field goal at the end of the game. That means absolutely nothing. Why they do that is confusing to me, but whatever. 38-13, Indiana smacks Michigan State and shuts their really good offense down, frankly. And then, of course, the number 1 team in the country, the Ohio State Buckeyes, further solidified this weekend just by the fact at saying is if he goes up against a team where he has to throw it, he can throw it. Not only can he do it, he can do it at a high percentage rate without turning the ball over. 42 attempts, 36 completions, no interceptions, 4 touchdown passes. Now, granted, it's Wisconsin, but he's growing as a redshirt freshman quarterback and also definitely in the Heisman race. And the Heisman talk definitely should be thrown in Julian Sands' direction. Not saying he deserves to win it at this point, because frankly, nobody deserves to win it. Nobody. There's nobody at this point in the season that, yes, this should be the Heisman winner. So it still has to be earned, but saying definitely in that list.
Hey, quick time out here. Please take a moment to just subscribe, comment, and like. If you do all three of those things, you'll really help me out in getting the word out for this show. Help me hopefully gain a larger audience. I would greatly appreciate it. So comment, like, and subscribe, please. And go Bucks.
And now it's time for Legends in Scarlet and Gray. Now this week I wanted to go into the Wayback Machine a little bit, and I wanted to go on defense. I had to think about one of the guys who I thought was just a high quality, great, remarkable player when I used to watch him play, and that is cornerback Shawn Springs. Now, if you're not old enough to have seen Shawn Springs play, he played 3 seasons from 94 to 96, and he appeared in 37 games. He had 152 total tackles, 24 pass breakups, and 6 interceptions. That doesn't sound like a lot, but defenses just didn't throw in his direction. And that's the part that I really remember. He was a lockdown corner back in the day. In his final game in the 1997 Rose Bowl against Arizona State, he held their top receiver to 1 catch for 10 yards. So he was a lockdown corner. He was a consensus All-American in 96. He was a Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year in 96. And he was first team All Big Ten in 95 and 96. And he had academic honors at Ohio State, and he was inducted into the Ohio State Athletics Hall of Fame in 2022. And like I say every week, Shawn Springs, if you don't know about him, look him up. He was a great, great cornerback, and he went on to have a very successful NFL career as well. And that's this week's Legends in Scarlet and Gray. Predictions of week 9. Let's just start by saying last week, as I said, I went 5-2. I was 28-11 overall in my previous picks. That makes me 33-13 on the season with a 71% pick rate. Now, last week I was really nervous about some of those picks because I felt like some of those games were toss-ups, and you look at little things that might make a difference in the game. Obviously, turnovers always a major factor. You look at home field advantage, special teams play. You look at everything you can think of to see what gives one team an edge over the other, if you even know. I don't always know all these teams, and I don't always have the ability to differentiate and discern every little detail that allows me to pick one team over another. Sometimes it's just a gut instinct. It's just a gut feeling from being a former athlete and watching a football team play. And I think being 33-13 when I'm picking the top games of the week every week is pretty solid. I'm going to stand on that. I'm proud of that. So this week's games, I struggled to find 5 great games this weekend. I just did. So I picked the best 5 in my opinion. And as I mentioned earlier, the Buckeyes have a bye to rest and prepare for Penn State, and maybe they'll do a little bit of practicing for Scum. What they have left is Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, and Scum. And UCLA is not a guaranteed win anymore. They have won 3 in a row. They're a hot team right now. Penn State's a hot mess, and we all thought that was going to be a huge game. As a matter of fact, it's going to be a blackout game. I was kind of wearing this black jersey just because it was in my rotation to wear for the show, but also in preparation for that Penn State game. But I don't know what we're going to get from Penn State. They lost their coach. They lost their starting quarterback. They're clearly going to have to run the ball. I can't see them bringing in a backup quarterback and trying to pass. So that should be an interesting game. And then, of course, the rivalry Scum. We should never lose to Scum, honestly. We're talent-wise the better team pretty much every year, and we have won this matchup over the last 40 years. I think it's like 26-14 or something crazy where we've really dominated this rivalry. But we're going to hear at the end of the year, if the Buckeyes go undefeated, oh, they didn't play anybody. You know, the SEC clowns are going to be saying that all year because they just think their conference is so much better with all their average to mediocre teams. All I have to say is just because the Buckeyes are good enough to control every game and win handily doesn't mean that the SEC's close wins to crappy teams like Auburn or Arkansas make the SEC tougher. It just means that no SEC team is a complete team. So get over yourselves, SEC fans. All right, my top 5 games of this week. The first game is number 8 Ole Miss at number 13 Oklahoma. Now, if you watched Oklahoma or Ole Miss play in the last couple of weeks, neither team is impressive. Neither team scares you and makes you think, oh, that's a really good team. Yes, Ole Miss can put up points, but they have a horrible defense. Horrible defense. Oklahoma has the opposite problem. They have a pretty good defense and a not so good or consistent offense. So in this case, for this game, because Oklahoma's at home and I like a high quality defense to beat a high quality offense, and Oklahoma can do enough offense to score on Ole Miss's sieve of a defense, I'm going to pick Oklahoma to win this game. So Oklahoma over Ole Miss. Next game, number 15 Missouri at number 10 Vanderbilt. Now, I think Vanderbilt is legit, and it took Missouri overtime to beat Auburn, which it appears it takes everyone till the end of the game to beat Auburn. I don't know if Auburn is just a good team that can't get over the hump or how that works out, but Missouri was not impressive against Auburn, whereas Vanderbilt was impressive against LSU, and Vanderbilt's going to be at home again. So I'm taking Vanderbilt. I like Vanderbilt to beat Missouri. I'm not saying Missouri can't win because they absolutely can, but I am saying I think Vanderbilt is better and can pull away in this game and win this game. Next game, number 3 Texas A&M at number 20 LSU. Now, everything in my bones is telling me to take LSU. I don't know why. It's a home game. I feel like A&M's due to take a loss. The loss to Vanderbilt, I really don't know if that's going to make LSU just go in the tank and be not very good the rest of the season, or if they're going to step up and get better and get more productive and do better than they have been thus far, because they haven't looked like a great team. At times they've looked like a great defense. At no time have they looked like a great offense. And it's strength on strength. It's Texas A&M's strong offense against LSU's strong defense, and weakness on weakness. LSU's weak offense against Texas A&M's weak defense. I'm taking LSU. Doesn't make any sense. There's no logic to it. Texas A&M should win this game by the way both of these teams have played all season. I very much could be wrong in this game, but I just feel like it's A&M's time to lose, and LSU's the team to do it in LSU. I'm taking LSU. Number 23, Illinois at Washington. Now, since the beginning of the season, I thought Illinois was the 4th best team in the Big Ten. The problem is going to Washington and winning at Washington is not easy to do. I think if Scum would have went there this weekend, that game would have been a whole different game with a whole different outcome. I just have to go with what I felt since the beginning of the season, because I really feel like both of these teams can move the ball. Both of these teams can score points, but I like Illinois just to get one more extra score than Washington. In a close game, I'm taking Illinois at Washington. And finally, I'm taking unranked Minnesota at unranked Iowa as the 5th and final game. Why? Because we are Big Ten. This is the Big Ten, and they both are tied for second with one loss, along with the whole slew of teams that I gave you in the Big Ten. So as far as Big Ten standings go, this is a big game. Unfortunately for Minnesota, this game is in Ames. It's at Iowa, and it's difficult to pick against Iowa at Iowa, and I'm just not going to do that. So I'm taking Iowa to win this game. So I have Oklahoma beating Ole Miss, Vanderbilt beating Missouri, LSU beating Texas A&M, which would be a big upset, and Illinois beating Washington in Washington, and Iowa beating Minnesota at home. Now it's time for my Instagram topics of the week. So first of all, let's just talk about the dominance that is Matt Patricia and Ohio State's defense. They have allowed, after the shutout this weekend, 5.8 points per game. It's hard to lose football games when you're giving up less than 6 points a game. Really, really hard. So they have given up 41 points all season thus far. And when you compare that to the second graphic here, if you look at 2021 Georgia, who comes the closest along with the 2007 Ohio State team, they've both gave up 46 points through the first 7 games. This year's Ohio State team is doing better than that. The 2023 National Championship Scum team gave up 47 points, and the 2011 Alabama, I believe they won the national championship that year, also had given up 49 points in 7 games. So if you look at the precedents set over the last 20 years or so, what Ohio State's doing right now is on a record-breaking pace. And as I alluded to earlier, if they can get more pressure on the quarterback, forget about it. It will be the best defense at Ohio State I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I just wanted to give Matt Patricia and the defense kudos for what they're doing this season so far. The other thing I wanted to do is talk about Ryan Day. Now, I historically have been a harsh critic of Ryan Day, not on the show because this is my first year doing this show. But if you knew me in personal life, wasn't a huge Ryan Day fan. Wanted him to be fired after they lost to Scum at the end of the last season. 100%. I was one of those people saying, fire Ryan Day. He doesn't know how to win big games. He doesn't get it done. All he's done since that is prove me and everyone else who says that about him wrong. And frankly, this year I've been a Ryan Day supporter, not calling the defense. I don't know what he's calling on offense, but to go out and get Matt Patricia and to get the players on the team and have the wherewithal to promote Brian Hartline to offensive coordinator. Because believe me, there are teams that want Brian Hartline and will make him a head coach if he wants to be, because the way he recruits. So Ryan Day has done some great things, and I'm swinging to his side of the fence and saying I'm a Ryan Day supporter at this point. And then I saw this graphic. So 1 week out of the top 10 in the last 7 years is what Ohio State has experienced under Ryan Day. Now, I had no idea. I did not know this at all. So in the AP poll era, 99% of his time as coach, granted he inherited Urban Meyer teams, he kept it up. And I would say even so much has gone to another level with this team this year. 99% of time Ryan Day has been coach, Ohio State's been in the top 10. 84 out of 85 games. Kudos to Ryan Day. I'm sorry I doubted you in the past to some degree. I mean, I had reason to doubt you. You gave me reason to doubt you. But you've definitely come back, and you've definitely proven to be a much better coach this year. And so you have my respect. So that will do it for this week's show. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Again, I'm very grateful for the number of views I had last week. Let's keep it going. Please help me keep it going by subscribing, commenting. Commenting puts it in the algorithm for people to see this show, Buckeye fans, and that would mean a lot to me. So please subscribe, like, comment. If you comment, I'm here. Whether you want to talk about things we agree on or things you want to debate on, I'm here for it. I'll talk about it with you. So I appreciate you. So thanks for listening to the Buckeye Battle Cry Show. I've been your host, Brandon Held. You can find me anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you don't have time to watch me and follow me on YouTube, go ahead and listen to the podcast. And until then, bleed scarlet and gray. Go Bucks.